1. I'm not sure who I almost met that night several years ago, but my spidey senses screamed run, and that's what I did. Local news anchors had reported a meteor shower expected in the pre-dawn hours, up to 75 dazzling displays per hour. It sounded super exciting enough that my young nephew, who was staying with us, could talk of nothing else. Our lake cabin was situated in what was little more than a clearing in the woods. I explained to him that in our yard, trees blocked the eastern sky, but we could drive to a better viewing location and that we'd have to wake up in the middle of the night. He agreed, and even went to bed early. Over my lifetime, I'd never seen more than a random shooting star, so I became excited too. However, at 3 a.m. when the alarm went off, I would have rolled over and gone back to sleep, if it hadn't been for the eager little guy on the couch. I woke him up and asked, "Do you still want to see the stars?" To my sleepy dismay, he popped instantly awake, answering a firm yes. We pulled coats on over our PJs and stepped into our shoes. I drove us 5 minutes away to the long road across the dam and parked. The dam has one lamp, but it stays unlit due to people using the bulb for target practice. So, other than the moon's reflection on the water surface, that night was pitch black when I cut the engine and turned off all but the parking lights. The way I was parked, around the middle mark of almost a half-mile of straightway, I'd see in plenty of time any headlights from either direction. Our house was one of the only occupied all year round on our side of the lake, so I really didn't expect any cars at that hour. We got settled, listening to music, and training our eyes across the water above the tree line. Sure enough, one star after another streaked across the sky. I rolled the windows down in our side of the vehicle so we could see even better. For a half-second, I expected the crazy fear you get when you're out in the middle of nowhere, alone at night, and you watched too many horror movies as a teen. But the unease was brief, and I was soon oohing and eyeing in unison with my nephew at each spectacular display. While watching the sky fall, I continually scanned the shadows. Wolves and other wild animals weren't uncommon, and although I doubted they would approach the car as a transplanted city girl, I really didn't know for sure. We'd been there for a while when I sensed something different. I did a sweep with my eyes, peering into the dark. First through the windshield, then the passenger window, next the rear view, finally, both side mirrors, and that's when I saw it. In the driver's side mirror, the barest orange dot glowing in the dark, a dozen or so meters behind the car. The scariest animal eye ever. But why wasn't it paired? A one-eyed beast. Was I seeing things? I stared harder into the side mirror and turned to look directly. It was swaying the slightest bit, a few feet higher than where the ground would be, and getting closer. Definitely real. And definitely moving towards us at a good pace. Without taking my eyes from the reflection of that orange thing, I reacted. Terror mode. I started the car and briefly put my foot on the brake while shifting from park to drive. The red illumination from the brake lights revealed a tall figure inches from the rear of the car, just as the man reached the back driver's side. I'll never forget him. He wore tan Carhartt-looking coveralls, the thick one-piece neck-to-ankle attire common among hunters or roughnecks. A cap or beanie smooshed down into his hair, and dark messy strands stuck from under it, waving around his face. Right there. A few more steps would bring him to our open windows. I stomped the accelerator, probably burning rubber, familiar with every curve around the lake. I braked and gasped, swerved and repeated, with my nephew at first interrogating me at the top of his lungs. "Why are we leaving? Why?" And then panicking loudly, likely because of my manic driving. "Wait, I'm not in my seatbelt." When I reached our long driveway, I didn't turn. I suddenly thought about how my house faces the dam, and this person could have watched my car lights twist around the lake road and figured out my vicinity. And during the day, being one of the only houses showing life signs in the yard, cars, bikes, etc., I wouldn't be hard to track. Instead, I drove to the next road, thinking this out, and finally turned around. At the point where I knew my lights would again be visible across the lake, I shut them off and crept the car to my driveway and then down it, parking with the house as a shield. I shushed my nephew, since voices carry over the water, and got him into the house and back to bed without turning on a light. Lying awake, I tried to make sense of what I saw. The orange glow must have been a cigarette, and thank the falling stars for it, as it was my only warning as this man got closer and closer to the car. What were his intentions? Did he think my car had been abandoned on the road? No, that didn't make sense, as he would have heard the radio and our voices shouting at each star. Why was he approaching so stealthily? No light, no friendly hello. Maybe he thought we broke down and was only a good Samaritan. Why then wouldn't he use his phone as a flashlight or holler out when we came near? If not to reassure us, then for his own safety in a state where almost everyone rural carries a gun. Where had he come from? Down one sheer drop-off side is the lake, down the other is a deep ravine of thick brush and woods. I try to reason it out every time I think of it, but I never can because of the vibe that felt so wrong, and I still get creeped out. Scary man who ruined meteor shower night? Let's not meet. 2. My first semester of college was in the fall of 2018. I met this guy, Ron, through a friend of mine, and he seemed cool. I also did think he was cute, but I'd heard from people around me that he had a girlfriend, so I wasn't flirting with him despite the initial attraction. I got put into a group chat with Ron and a couple of other people, and he and I started texting on occasion. Fast forward a few weeks, and I'm walking back to my dorm from an event my university hosted. It was around 10:30 at night. I had been passively texting Ron that night because he missed the event and wanted to know what was going on. And I made a comment on how I wanted orange juice for some reason. Probably because I always crave OJ after 9 p.m. I got back to my building and he was standing outside of it. I'd never told him where I lived, but the girl he was supposedly dating lived in a building connected to mine, so I didn't question it. I talked to him for a second and then walked up to my room where I had a window. He was still standing outside, and I got a text from him saying he was going to buy me orange juice. So I opened the window and said it was a nice offer, but unnecessary. In response, he said something along the lines of, "I want to flirt with you. Am I allowed to do that?" I asked what he meant, and he said, "Well, you're cute, and I want to flirt with you. Not in a weird way, but like an encouraging way, like a gay best friend." I said, sure? He asked if I could come down to talk, and since I was apparently stupid and naive, I did. And then he asked if we could go inside. I'd had male friends in my room before, and for some reason I didn't see any red flags with Ron. So I said sure. We talked about multiple things, and all was normal at first. But things soon got very weird. See, Ron was sitting at my desk, and out of the blue his eyes just rolled into the back of his head. And his voice changed, like his accent changed from a regular American accent to a Russian, I think, accent. And he started saying scary stuff like how he was trying to figure out what mess to put on around me, and that he never talks in his real voice. He would also chuckle out of nowhere. He said he hated Jews and blacks and every single person alive. He explained that being my gay best friend would mean he would give me encouragement if I needed it, whether it's emotional or physical. He said, "And they'll give you hugs, but not in an affectionate way. Like this is affectionate." And he proceeded to wrap his arms around me in an iron grip and stare at me unblinking. I said, "Okay, you can let go." When I moved, he didn't budge. So I said, "Dude, that's enough, stop." He finally let go after I told him multiple times. Before he left my room, he said that he was in fact dating the girl I've mentioned, but that he would be hitting on me if he was single. He said that fucking friends isn't okay, but that he would fuck me if I really needed it, because he found me attractive. He also admitted that he had lied to a lot of people about his lineage. He told everyone he was Slavic, but he grew up in my home state. He also had 3 IDs in his wallet, all with different names. He would sometimes switch back to talking about normal stuff, like how he loves his girlfriend and the classes he was taking. On the way out of my room, once I stressed that he needed to leave, he said, "Do you want to know how bad the locks on your door are?" I said no. He then asked if I thought he was attractive, and genuinely intimidated at this point, I said, Yeah. I know it's dumb, but I thought that if I said otherwise he'd get angry and go ballistic. I got him to leave and I closed the door. I looked out the peephole to watch him leave, but he stood outside my door just staring at it for 5 to 10 seconds. I soon texted him and told him not to flirt with me because it made me uncomfortable, and he said, "Thanks for letting me know." So I figured I was in the clear. After this, he started calling me multiple times each day at odd hours, like 3 in the morning. He'd text me gibberish. He started showing up in a lot of the same places I frequented. I started avoiding him because it was freaking me out. I confided in Shane, the friend that introduced me to Ron, about what had happened and what had been going on. Once I told Shane what was happening and about the things Ron had said to me, he began to notice how much Ron would appear wherever I was. Shane noticed him lurking outside of the entrance to our building that was closest to my own, the one on the back side of the building. He also noticed that Ron would stare me down in public settings, and that he would move where he was sitting to be near where I was. One day Shane and I were sitting outside, and Ron started skating circles around me on his longboard, staring at me. The loop he was taking was on one of the bumpiest roads on campus, and Shane said he was staring at me the whole time. Shane saw Ron eventually ride around to the side of the building where the backside entrance was and hide around the corner. Shane said I needed to report what was happening to my RA, but I honestly thought I was overreacting to it all. Shane disagreed, and the weeks went on as normal. I slowly stopped seeing Ron around as much, though. I soon found out that Shane had gone to my RA himself and said what was going on, keeping my name out of it. My RA looked horrified and banned Ron from entering my building. I blocked his number to stop the 3 a.m. phone calls, and I eventually stopped seeing him around campus altogether. The ending is a bit anticlimactic, I know, but everything leading up to Shane taking action was scary. I was worried Ron would break into my room, worried that he would try to grab me one day, and worried about several other things he said to me that I didn't detail in this post, since they're still hard to discuss. Anyway, Ron, let's not meet ever again, and to anyone out there who thinks they might be overreacting to someone making them uncomfortable or scared, talk to someone about it, whether it's a friend, an RA, a boss, a parent, etc. It could help. And you could very well not be overreacting to a dangerous situation. It's better to be safe than sorry. 3. I work at a spa here in my hometown, and I had recently left work one night 2 months ago. When I had left that morning, I realized I was low on gas, but because I was in a hurry to get to work on time, I figured I'd just get some after my shift instead. So I'm driving on my way to get gas, and I remembered that a gas station was recently built near my neighborhood, literally right next to the turn into my neighborhood entrance. I was happy because it was on my traveling route home, and that meant not having to spend extra time driving. I have never been to this gas station. Like I said earlier, it's a new gas station, and I usually swing by the Wawa that's kind of close to my work because of how cheap their gas is, compared to other gas stations. However, it's difficult to get to because you have to cross traffic and wait forever at this one light. So that's why when I remembered there was a gas station near my neighborhood, I was happy, and went there instead. When I pulled into the place, I was looking towards their gas pumps, trying to decide which one I was going to pull up to. While driving by the entrance to the gas station, I could see out of my peripheral a man was walking out the gas station. He looked up at my car, and because I don't have any tint on my windows, I'm pretty sure he saw me. Whatever, no big deal, I thought. I pulled up to a pump, and I could hear this man who was now walking towards the pump, and towards a car that was parked on the exact opposite side of the gas pump I decided to park and use. He was yelling out and looking in the direction of the car on the other side of me. So I just ignored it, and was getting my purse and keys together, getting ready to get out and walk into the gas station to pay. For whatever reason, I looked over and saw that the car was packed full of guys. Not little punk teenage kids, but like men in their late 20s and maybe early 30s. One in every seat, it looked like. I'm not going to lie, it kind of freaked me out, because at the same time I looked over, they were looking at me through the windows of their car. I have pepper spray in my keychain, so I dug around my purse for it, and held it in my hand as I got out of the car to walk inside. The pumps thankfully aren't really that far away, however, they are more off to the side. So unless you're standing at the door of the gas station, it's kind of hard to see over there from inside the place. I got out of my car and began to walk. Not even a few steps in, I heard them start their car up, and I was relieved, because I figured they were leaving and all would be well. However, that didn't seem to be the deal, because instead of leaving, they turned their car around and got directly behind me. Literally, their car was on my heels. If they had pressed the gas pedal, they would have ran me over and flattened me like a pancake. I instantly went on red alert mode and realized that I was almost to the entrance, and I was definitely within eyesight now if anyone was inside, but by the looks of the parking lot there wasn't. My nerves got the best of me, and even though I had pepper spray, I ended up doing the weird little awkward jog and fast walk inside the store, desperate to put some space between us. When I got inside, I instantly went into the girls' bathroom, hoping that maybe I could wait them out, or that maybe they wouldn't even bother to come inside and would just leave instead. I stayed in there for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. When I finally decided to leave the bathroom and pay for my gas, I realized that there were people inside the gas station now. With a quick glance, none of the faces looked like the ones I saw in the car, so I walked up to the register to take my place in line, just wanting to finally be home. After a few minutes, I'm almost to the register. I'm second in line to be exact, and I'm looking around at all the items on the counter, and in doing so, I notice a guy standing behind the line off to the side against the wall. He just happened to put his head down like he was looking at the floor at the same moment I noticed him, so I couldn't see his face to know for sure if it was one of the guys from the car. I looked back at the register and realize it's my turn to check out. I walk up and pay for my gas, and in the process of putting my debit card in my back wallet, I see that guy who was against the wall begin to walk to the door. But he's doing it really dramatic, almost like he's trying to time it out just right, so he can be next to me when I'm walking out the door. At the thought of this, and realizing I was holding up the line by not moving, I did some quick thinking and began to walk towards the door, and like I thought, this guy hurries up and starts walking faster, and I can recognize him as being the exact guy who had walked out of the gas station when I was pulling in. So I instantly stopped walking and just stepped to the side out of the way of the entrance to the door, hoping I was pulling a quick one on him. I started making a scene of putting my wallet into my purse and rummaging around inside it, acting like I was trying to find something, just trying to kill enough time to where he'd be forced to walk ahead of me instead of behind me. This guy, however, was a quick thinker too, I guess, because when he did walk past me and got to the doors of the entrance, he stopped and held them open and stared directly at me and smiled. This smile gave me chills instantly. Trying to think of what to do, I look at him and for some stupid reason smile back, and he smiles even wider at this. I instantly hate myself for being that dumb girl who doesn't just flick guys off or curse at them or something whenever they think they're dealing with a creep. So I'm staring at him, realizing I have to make a move at some point, and I look past him and realize the car full of guys is now parked right in front of the store. Lights on, car running, and with one of the backseat doors wide open. By now I'm freaking out internally, and even though this feels like hours, it's actually all going down in a matter of minutes. I looked behind me towards the register, hoping someone would be paying and leaving. Thankfully, that exact thing happened right then. A man started walking towards the door, and when he walked by me, I walked with him, and I made sure to get on the side that was opposite of the man standing at the doors, holding them open. The second I got outside, I made a quick right because I saw that there were more cars parked on that side, and ran between them towards my car. I hurried and unlocked my car and got inside and locked the doors and waited. I just had a feeling it wasn't going to be that easy. I was right. The car of guys had reversed and was heading towards my gas pump. I'm still the only one there actually getting gas, mind you. So I instantly hit the lock of the car doors again just to make sure they are good and locked. The car slows down as it's driving past me and gets a little bit in front of me and just stops. I'm frozen with fear at this point. I think about calling someone, but I don't really care for dealing with the police due to my history with them, and I knew my friends couldn't do anything to help but panic with me, which probably wouldn't have helped. I decided I was just going to sit inside my car and wait them out. I would have died in that car from lack of oxygen before I got out or left. I didn't want to leave because I had already prepaid for my gas, and I didn't want them following me either. Finally, after about 10 or 15 minutes they drove off. Windows rolled down, calling me all kinds of provocative names. I sat in my car for another 10 minutes just to be safe before getting out and hurrying to pump my gas. When I got home, I called a friend who lives in my neighborhood also, I told them what happened, and that if they go to that gas station at night to be careful. She replied back, saying how she's heard from other people in the neighborhood that, for whatever reason, a lot of sketchy people seem to hang out around there at night. Sometimes, even when the gas station is closed for the night, you can drive by there and see a group of guys hanging out around the gas pumps. For whatever sketchy reason. So yeah, to the car full of creepy men, let's not meet, ever. Whatever your intentions were, I don't wish to know. I did go back to that gas station a few days later one morning to speak to the owner. I explained the situation, gave the best description I could of the man I saw inside the store, and the make of the car and color. I haven't been back, though, to see if it's happened to anyone else or if they caught them. I honestly probably never will. I'll gladly spend an extra 5 minutes driving to Wawa for gas before I go back there, especially if it's at night. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 423. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I had a bit of trouble getting started today. I don't know what was with me. I'm feeling okay now. Plus side is, everything in the neighbourhood is quieted down at this time. It's about 11:10, so maybe the occasional dog barking, but mostly it's fine. Which is good for recording, it just means I'll be done late. Ah, well, that's the way it goes sometimes. I'd ordered a thing that was meant to arrive on Sunday. I'd ordered a paper shredder. I thought it was about time I got one of those. Just for shredding anything with, information you don't want naughty people seeing. Mostly just old bills and the like, to be honest with you, that you don't really need anymore. And it should have arrived on Sunday. And Amazon's got a habit of changing your delivery date when they think they're going to miss it and not telling you. It would be fine if they gave you an email and told you, and I'm sure you've all dealt with this nonsense from them before. But it really annoyed me, especially tonight. For some reason, especially, it's happened before, and I was like, oh, that's annoying, but okay, fine. It annoyed me especially, this time, and especially when you contact them and you ask, okay, what's going on, and they're just not helpful at all about it. Their only response is, oh, sorry, I'll be out tomorrow. Oh, don't worry. I said, well, I'm not worried, I'm angry. Can we talk to you on the phone? I said, no. If I wanted to talk to you on the phone, I'd have called you. Anyway, like I say, completely unhelpful customer service now. So, just to make things difficult for them, I cancelled the delivery. Would have been here today, but well, no, I only chose that one because she could get it to me quickly. So I cancelled that, and I've picked another model, a slightly better model, that I think it can handle more sheets, I'm not entirely sure. But it does everything that one was meant to do. And hopefully, this one actually arrives on Wednesday when they've promised me it'll arrive. Anyway, that's a lot of nonsense about paper shredders from me. Yep. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.